Question 1. During a project's execution phase, the project manager uncovers that a key deliverable, if implemented as designed, would be in direct violation of a newly enacted regional data privacy regulation. The project is already 70% complete, and redesigning the deliverable would cause significant delays and cost overruns. What is the project manager's most appropriate first action? A. Document the non-compliance risk in the risk register and continue with the current design, planning to address the issue in a later phase. B. Immediately halt all work on the affected deliverable and inform the project sponsor, requesting guidance on how to proceed. C. Conduct a thorough impact analysis on the project's scope, schedule, and budget due to the new regulation, then propose options to the relevant stakeholders. D. Seek legal counsel to determine if a waiver or exemption from the new regulation can be obtained. Answer: C. Conduct a thorough impact analysis on the project's scope, schedule, and budget due to the new regulation, then propose options to the relevant stakeholders. When a new compliance issue arises that impacts a project, the most appropriate first action is to conduct a thorough impact analysis to understand the full implications on project baselines, such as scope, schedule, and budget. This step ensures that the project manager has concrete data and potential solutions to present to stakeholders, enabling informed decision-making rather than merely stopping work or escalating without a clear understanding of the problem's magnitude. Addressing compliance is paramount, as failing to comply can lead to severe penalties, legal issues, or reputational damage. Remember, knowledge is power. Understanding the impact is the first step toward effective resolution. Question 2. A project team is developing a new medical device, and the project manager discovers a potential deviation from a crucial safety standard mandated by the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, during a routine quality audit. The team insists it's a minor deviation that won't affect performance and suggests proceeding to save time. What should the project manager do? A. Approve the deviation, but document it thoroughly and notify legal counsel for future reference. B. Immediately halt production and initiate a root cause analysis to understand the deviation, ensuring full compliance before proceeding. C. Escalate the issue to the project sponsor, explaining the team's perspective and asking for a decision. D. Consult with the Quality Assurance Department to determine if a workaround can be implemented to meet the standard without redesigning. Answer: B. Immediately halt production and initiate a root cause analysis to understand the deviation, ensuring full compliance before proceeding. In projects involving critical safety standards, especially in regulated industries like medical devices, any deviation, even if perceived as minor by the team, must be addressed immediately and decisively. Regulatory compliance, particularly concerning safety, is non-negotiable and takes precedence over schedule or cost pressures. Halting work and conducting a root cause analysis ensures that the deviation is fully understood and rectified, preventing potential harm, regulatory fines, or project failure due to non-compliance. Always prioritize compliance with critical safety and regulatory standards, as the consequences of non-compliance can be severe. Question 3. An international software development project is nearing completion when it is discovered that the data encryption standards used do not fully comply with the stringent privacy laws of a key target country. This oversight was missed during initial planning. What is the most proactive step the project manager should take? A. Inform the client that the software cannot be deployed in that specific country due to compliance issues. B. Engage a legal expert to review the compliance gap and advise on potential workarounds or necessary modifications. C. Propose a change request to allocate additional budget and time to re-engineer the encryption module to meet the target country's standards. D. Launch the software in other compliant countries first, then address the compliance issue as a post-implementation enhancement. Answer: B. Engage a legal expert to review the compliance gap and advise on potential workarounds or necessary modifications. When a compliance gap is identified, especially with international legal requirements, the most proactive and informed step is to consult an expert, such as a legal expert specializing in data privacy laws. This allows the project manager to gain a precise understanding of the compliance requirements, the severity of the gap, and the exact scope of necessary modifications or potential mitigation strategies. Relying on expert advice helps avoid unnecessary re-engineering or premature conclusions, ensuring the project addresses the compliance issue effectively and legally. Remember, legal compliance often requires specialized knowledge, so seek expert advice promptly. Question 4. A project manager leading an infrastructure upgrade project discovers that the chosen contractor for waste disposal does not have the required environmental permits for handling certain hazardous materials identified late in the project. The contract is already signed. What is the project manager's primary responsibility in this situation? A. Renegotiate the contract with the current contractor to ensure they obtain the necessary permits. B. Terminate the contract with the non-compliant contractor and find a new, compliant one, regardless of cost. C. Immediately inform relevant authorities and organizational legal counsel about the non-compliance. D. Temporarily store the hazardous materials on site until a compliance solution can be arranged. Answer: C. Immediately inform relevant authorities and organizational legal counsel about the non-compliance. When non-compliance with environmental regulations, especially regarding hazardous materials, is discovered with an existing contractor, the project manager's primary responsibility is to act ethically and legally. This involves immediately informing relevant authorities and organizational legal counsel, as regulatory bodies often mandate reporting of such issues. This ensures the organization is aware of its legal obligations, can mitigate risks, and takes appropriate action to prevent environmental harm or legal repercussions, which often includes correcting the non-compliance. Always prioritize regulatory and legal compliance, and involve the necessary internal and external parties as soon as a serious non-compliance is identified. Question 5. In an agile project, a team member identifies during a sprint review that a feature developed does not fully align with the company's internal accessibility standards, which were documented in the compliance management plan. The product owner is inclined to accept the feature to meet the sprint goal. What should the project manager or Scrum Master do? A. Allow the product owner to make the final decision, as they prioritize the product backlog. B. Document the non-compliance as a known defect to be fixed in a future sprint, ensuring the sprint goal is met. C. Facilitate a discussion to ensure the team understands the importance of the accessibility standard and that compliance issues are impediments that must be addressed. D. Escalate the issue to senior management for a definitive decision on whether to prioritize compliance over sprint goals. Answer: C. Facilitate a discussion to ensure the team understands the importance of the accessibility standard and that compliance issues are impediments that must be addressed. In an agile environment, while the product owner prioritizes the product backlog, compliance issues are often non-negotiable requirements that must be met. The project manager or Scrum Master's role is to facilitate understanding of project principles and remove impediments. Compliance deviations should be treated as high-priority impediments that block the delivery of a truly done increment, necessitating immediate attention, potentially even within the current sprint, to ensure the increment is shippable and compliant. Help the team see compliance not as a suggestion, but as a mandatory aspect of quality and a definition of done. Question 6. A project is subject to frequent audits by an external regulatory body. The project manager wants to ensure the project team is continuously aware of and adhering to all compliance requirements. Which of the following is the most effective proactive strategy? A. Schedule quarterly mock audits with an internal compliance team to identify gaps. B. Distribute compliance guidelines and checklists to the team members at the start of the project. C. Integrate compliance checks and training into regular project activities and team meetings. D. Hire a dedicated compliance officer to monitor all project activities for adherence. Answer: C. Integrate compliance checks and training into regular project activities and team meetings. For continuous adherence to compliance requirements, the most effective proactive strategy is to integrate compliance checks and training into the team's daily routines. This embeds compliance into the project's culture, making it an ongoing consideration rather than a separate, occasional activity. Regular integration ensures that team members are consistently reminded and actively involved in maintaining compliance, fostering a proactive approach rather than a reactive one driven by audits or external monitoring. Building compliance into the fabric of daily work makes it a shared responsibility. Question 7. A project involves the migration of sensitive customer data. During the data mapping phase, a team member identifies that the current data anonymization process, while industry standard, might not fully satisfy a niche clause in a new, obscure privacy law effective in one of the project's target regions. The project manager is unsure if this law even applies. What should the project manager do first? A. Continue with the current anonymization process, as it is industry standard and the law's applicability is uncertain. B. Immediately pause the data migration activities until the legal team confirms the law's applicability and implications. C. Consult the project's legal counsel or a compliance expert to assess the law's applicability and the potential impact of the niche clause. D. Implement a more robust anonymization process, even if it adds cost and time, to ensure absolute compliance. Answer: C. Consult the project's legal counsel or a compliance expert to assess the law's applicability and the potential impact of the niche clause. When faced with uncertainty regarding the applicability or interpretation of a niche law, especially one related to sensitive data and privacy, the project manager's first step should be to seek expert clarification. Consulting legal counsel or a compliance expert ensures that the project manager receives accurate information regarding the law's relevance and its specific implications for the project's data handling. This expert guidance is crucial before making any significant changes or decisions, preventing unnecessary delays or inadequate compliance measures. Always verify regulatory ambiguities with relevant experts. Question 8. A project manager is overseeing a construction project in a developing country. A local official implies that a facilitation payment would expedite the necessary building permits, which are critical for the project schedule. Such payments are illegal under the project's organizational policy and international anti-bribery laws. What is the project manager's most ethical response? A. Make the payment, but ensure it is documented as a expediting fee to avoid legal complications later. B. Refuse the payment, explain the organization's zero-tolerance policy on bribery, and seek alternative lawful ways to obtain the permits. C. Escalate the issue to the project sponsor and legal department, letting them decide on the best course of action. D. Delay the project until a new official is assigned who does not demand such payments. Answer: B. Refuse the payment, explain the organization's zero-tolerance policy on bribery, and seek alternative lawful ways to obtain the permits. A project manager is bound by the PMI Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct, which mandates acting with honesty, integrity, and responsibility, strictly prohibiting bribery. Accepting a facilitation payment is a direct violation of anti-bribery laws and organizational policy, regardless of how it's disguised. The most ethical and appropriate response is to refuse the payment, clearly communicate the organizational stance, and actively pursue legal and ethical means to obtain the necessary permits. Upholding ethical standards is non-negotiable, even when faced with pressure or potential delays. Question 9. During a project mid-term review, it's observed that several team members are consistently bypassing the established change control process for minor scope adjustments. While these changes haven't caused significant issues yet, they violate the project's governance framework. What is the most effective corrective action for the project manager to take? A. Formally reprimand the team members involved to deter future non-compliance. B. Recommunicate the change control process and its importance to the entire team in a dedicated meeting. C. Implement stricter monitoring of all team activities to catch and prevent unauthorized changes. D. Revise the change control process to make it less cumbersome for minor adjustments, then reinforce its use. Answer: D. Revise the change control process to make it less cumbersome for minor adjustments, then reinforce its use. When team members bypass a process, it often indicates the process itself is perceived as too complex or inefficient, especially for minor adjustments. While recommunicating is helpful, the most effective corrective action is to identify the root cause of noncompliance. If the process is cumbersome, streamlining it for minor changes makes it more likely for the team to adhere, thereby improving compliance without sacrificing necessary controls. After revision, reinforcing the updated process through training and communication ensures adoption. Focus on enabling compliance, not just enforcing it. Question 10. A project management office, PMO, recently introduced a new set of standardized project management templates and processes. The project manager of an ongoing project finds that using these new templates would significantly slow down the project due to reformatting and training needs for the team. The project manager wants to maintain project velocity. What should the project manager do? A. Continue using the old templates and processes, as the project started before the new standards were enforced. B. Adopt the new templates and processes immediately, accepting the short-term impact on velocity for long-term PMO compliance. C. Request a formal exemption from the PMO for the current project, explaining the negative impact on project velocity. D. Gradually integrate the new templates and processes over the remaining project lifecycle. Answer: C. Request a formal exemption from the PMO for the current project, explaining the negative impact on project velocity. When new organizational standards conflict with an ongoing project's objectives, the most pragmatic and professional approach is to seek a formal exemption. This demonstrates an understanding of the PMO's goals while advocating for the project's specific needs. Simply ignoring the new standards or blindly adopting them without considering the impact is not ideal. A formal request allows for a discussion with the PMO, potentially leading to a mutually agreeable solution or a clear directive for the project to follow. Always seek formal resolution when organizational compliance creates significant project challenges. Question 11. The project team has developed a new software module, but during final testing, a critical security vulnerability is discovered. Fixing this vulnerability would require significant rework and delay the project's planned release by 2 months. The project sponsor suggests a workaround that mitigates the risk for a limited time, allowing the product to launch on schedule, and then issuing a patch later. What is the project manager's ethical obligation? A. Implement the workaround and release on schedule, documenting the plan for the patch. B. Refuse the workaround, prioritize fixing the vulnerability, and communicate the necessary delay to stakeholders. C. Present both options, fix versus workaround, to stakeholders, explaining the risks and benefits of each, and let them decide. D. Consult with the legal department to assess potential liability if the workaround is used and a security breach occurs. Answer: B. Refuse the workaround, prioritize fixing the vulnerability, and communicate the necessary delay to stakeholders. Project managers have a professional and ethical responsibility to deliver products that meet specified requirements, especially concerning critical security and safety. A known, critical security vulnerability represents a significant compliance failure and a major risk. Prioritizing schedule over fundamental security is unethical and potentially disastrous. The project manager must advocate for fixing the vulnerability before release, transparently communicating the necessary delay and its justification to stakeholders. Upholding quality and security standards is paramount to protecting users and the organization's reputation. Question 12. A project involves the development of a complex financial reporting system. During the design phase, the project team proposes a simplified approach to data aggregation that would significantly reduce development time and cost but does not fully comply with a detailed, internal corporate accounting standard. This standard is non-negotiable for audit purposes. What should the project manager do? A. Allow the team to proceed with the simplified approach but add a risk mitigation plan to address potential audit findings. B. Reject the simplified approach and direct the team to design the system in full compliance with the corporate accounting standard. C. Escalate the issue to the CFO for a decision on whether the cost savings outweigh the strict compliance requirement. D. Document the non-compliance as a technical debt to be addressed in a future phase or separate project. Answer: B. Reject the simplified approach and direct the team to design the system in full compliance with the corporate accounting standard. Corporate accounting standards, especially those for audit purposes, are typically non-negotiable compliance requirements. The project manager's role is to ensure the project delivers products that meet all defined requirements, including strict internal standards. Allowing a known non-compliance to proceed, even for time and cost savings, would compromise the system's integrity for its intended purpose and expose the organization to significant audit risks. The project manager must ensure full compliance, directing the team to adhere to the standard from the outset. Non-negotiable standards demand strict adherence. Question 13. A project team is developing a new software application for internal use. A senior stakeholder requests a feature that would collect and store employee performance data in a way that directly contradicts the company's internal data privacy policy. The stakeholder argues it's for performance improvement and is a minor policy conflict. What is the project manager's best course of action? A. Implement the feature but ensure robust security measures are in place around the data. B. Discuss the policy conflict with the stakeholder, explaining the implications and offering alternative, compliant solutions. C. Escalate the request to the Legal or Human Resources Department for a definitive ruling on the policy's interpretation. D. Document the stakeholder's request and the policy conflict, proceeding only if the stakeholder provides written authorization. Answer: B. Discuss the policy conflict with the stakeholder, explaining the implications and offering alternative, compliant solutions. When a stakeholder requests something that directly violates an internal policy, especially one as sensitive as data privacy, the project manager's best course of action is to directly address the issue with the stakeholder. This involves clearly explaining the policy, the risks of non-compliance, example legal, ethical, reputational, and proposing alternative solutions that achieve the stakeholder's objective while remaining compliant. Escalation is a later step if direct discussion fails, but the PM should first attempt to resolve it by educating the stakeholder and finding compliant alternatives. Protect your organization by upholding its internal policies. Question 14. A project manager discovers that a vendor providing critical components for a manufacturing project has a history of questionable labor practices, potentially violating the organization's corporate social responsibility (CSR) policy. The vendor offers the lowest price and the fastest delivery. What is the project manager's most ethical response? A. Proceed with the vendor due to cost and schedule benefits, but monitor their labor practices closely. B. Terminate the contract with the vendor immediately and seek a new, compliant vendor, even if it impacts the project budget and schedule. C. Initiate a formal review of the vendor's practices by the procurement department, involving legal and CSR teams. D. Include a clause in the contract requiring the vendor to certify compliance with labor laws and organizational CSR policies. Answer: C. Initiate a formal review of the vendor's practices by the procurement department, involving legal and CSR teams. When a potential non-compliance issue arises with a vendor, particularly concerning ethical policies like corporate social responsibility, the project manager should not make a unilateral decision. The most ethical and responsible action is to involve the appropriate internal departments, such as procurement, legal, and CSR teams. They have the expertise to formally investigate the vendor's practices, assess the severity of the potential violation, and advise on the appropriate course of action in line with organizational values and legal obligations. Always involve the right experts for complex ethical or compliance concerns. Question 15. The project's quality management plan mandates quarterly quality audits. Due to severe schedule pressure, the project manager considers skipping the upcoming audit, reasoning that the team has been performing well, and there have been no major quality defects reported recently. What should the project manager do? A. Skip the audit for this quarter to save time, but schedule 2 audits for the next quarter to compensate. B. Conduct the audit as planned, understanding that project governance and compliance with the plan are critical for overall project success. C. Consult with the project sponsor to obtain approval for deferring the audit. D. Perform a self-assessment instead of a formal audit to quickly check quality and stay on schedule. Answer: B. Conduct the audit as planned, understanding that project governance and compliance with the plan are critical for overall project success. Skipping planned audits, even under schedule pressure, compromises project governance and the integrity of the quality management plan. Audits are critical for systematically identifying potential issues, verifying adherence to processes, and demonstrating due diligence. Bypassing them can lead to undetected problems escalating, increased risks, and a breach of project compliance. The project manager must uphold the agreed-upon project management plan and ensure all planned governance activities, including audits, are conducted to maintain control and quality. Stick to your plan, especially for foundational compliance activities. Question 16. A project is implementing a new customer relationship management (CRM) system. One critical non-functional requirement is that the system must comply with the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines (WCAG 2.1 AA). During user acceptance testing (UAT), several accessibility issues are reported. The project is already over budget and behind schedule. What should the project manager prioritize? A. Release the system as is, documenting the known issues as technical debt for a future release. B. Obtain user sign-off on the current system, then develop a plan for addressing the accessibility issues in a separate enhancement project. C. Address all reported accessibility issues to ensure full WCAG 2.1 AA compliance before release. D. Negotiate with key stakeholders to reduce the accessibility compliance level to WCAG 2.0 A to meet budget and schedule. Answer: C. Address all reported accessibility issues to ensure full WCAG 2.1 AA compliance before release. Compliance requirements, especially those tied to accessibility standards like WCAG, are often non-negotiable legal or ethical obligations that define whether a system is truly done and fit for purpose. Releasing a system with known non-compliance issues can lead to legal liabilities, reputational damage, and exclusion of users. Despite budget and schedule pressures, the project manager must prioritize meeting all critical compliance requirements before release. Compliance is often a fundamental aspect of product quality and usability for all. Question 17. The project manager is managing a software project that involves significant intellectual property, IP. During development, a team member suggests using an open-source library that offers a quick solution to a complex problem, but its license, GPL v3, requires any derived work to also be open source. The project's product is intended to be proprietary. What is the project manager's immediate concern? A. The potential for increased development time if an alternative proprietary solution must be found. B. The legal implications of the GPL v3 license on the project's proprietary intellectual property. C. The ethical considerations of using open-source components without proper attribution. D. The risk of introducing security vulnerabilities through unvetted open-source code. Answer: B. The legal implications of the GPL v3 license on the project's proprietary intellectual property. The GPL v3 license has significant copyleft implications, meaning that if a proprietary product incorporates GPL v3 licensed code, the entire derived product may be required to be distributed under the same open-source license. This directly conflicts with the project's intent to create a proprietary product and represents a critical intellectual property and legal compliance issue. The project manager's immediate concern must be to assess these legal implications, as they could fundamentally undermine the project's commercial viability and ownership. Always understand the licensing terms of external components, especially open-source ones, to protect your organization's IP. Question 18. A project is subject to strict financial reporting standards set by government regulators. Midway through the project, the financial team identifies a new interpretation of a reporting standard that means the project's current cost tracking system is insufficient. Implementing a new system will cause delays and require additional funds. What is the project manager's best course of action? A. Document the gap and continue with the current system, planning to update after project completion. B. Seek a temporary waiver from the regulator to allow the project to complete using the current system. C. Immediately update the project's cost tracking processes and system to align with the new interpretation, and submit a change request for budget and schedule. D. Adjust the project's scope to reduce activities that would require detailed reporting under the new interpretation. Answer: C. Immediately update the project's cost tracking processes and system to align with the new interpretation, and submit a change request for budget and schedule. Compliance with financial reporting standards, especially those mandated by government regulators, is non-negotiable. An insufficient cost tracking system poses a significant compliance risk that can lead to legal penalties and audit failures. The project manager must prioritize adapting the project's processes and systems to meet the new interpretation, even if it impacts cost and schedule. This requires proactive change management, including submitting a change request to formally adjust baselines and obtain necessary resources. Compliance with regulatory financial reporting standards is critical for the organization's legal standing and financial integrity. Question 19. During an agile project, a team member discovers that some project artifacts stored on a cloud drive violate the company's data retention policy. The policy states that certain sensitive data must be deleted after 90 days, but it has been there for 6 months. What should the project manager or Scrum Master advise the team to do? A. Delete the data immediately and perform a retrospective to understand how the non-compliance occurred. B. Document the issue in the risk register and propose a compliance task for a future sprint. C. Notify the legal department and the data privacy officer for guidance on remediation and prevention. D. Move the data to an on-premise server to comply with the retention policy indirectly. Answer: C. Notify the legal department and the data privacy officer for guidance on remediation and prevention. Data retention policies are often tied to legal or regulatory requirements, especially for sensitive data. When a violation is discovered, especially one that has persisted for a significant period, the most prudent action is to involve the internal experts responsible for legal and data privacy compliance. These individuals can provide authoritative guidance on the appropriate remediation steps, potential legal implications, and necessary preventative measures, ensuring the organization handles the non-compliance correctly and responsibly. Don't guess, involve the experts when data compliance is at stake. Question 20. A project manager is overseeing the decommissioning of an old manufacturing plant. During the planning phase, it is discovered that the environmental regulations for hazardous waste disposal have become significantly stricter since the plant was originally built. Adhering to the new regulations will significantly increase the project's cost and extend its timeline. What should the project manager's approach be? A. Develop a project plan based on the original, less stringent regulations to stay within budget and schedule, documenting the risks. B. Revise the project plan to fully incorporate the new, stricter regulations, creating a change request for budget and schedule adjustments. C. Negotiate with environmental agencies for an exemption or a grace period based on the plant's age. D. Propose a partial decommissioning that avoids the more stringent waste disposal requirements. Answer: B. Revise the project plan to fully incorporate the new, stricter regulations, creating a change request for budget and schedule adjustments. Environmental regulations, particularly for hazardous waste, are typically mandatory and non-negotiable for project execution. When new regulations become stricter, the project manager's responsibility is to ensure full compliance, regardless of the impact on cost or schedule. This requires revising the project plan to incorporate the new requirements and submitting a change request to formally adjust the project's baselines. Attempting to bypass or negotiate regulations, or proceeding with a non-compliant plan, carries severe legal, financial, and reputational risks for the organization. Compliance is foundational, especially for environmental safety. Question 21. A project has just completed its first major deliverable, and a post-delivery audit reveals that documentation is incomplete, failing to meet the organization's quality management system, QMS, standards. The team argues they prioritized coding and testing to meet the deadline. What is the best response from the project manager? A. Accept the deliverable but ensure all future deliverables meet the QMS documentation standards. B. Initiate corrective action to complete the missing documentation for the current deliverable and reinforce the importance of QMS compliance for future work. C. Revise the project's documentation standards to be less stringent, acknowledging the team's focus on technical work. D. Share the audit findings with the team and ask them to develop a plan to address the documentation gap in a subsequent phase. Answer. B. Initiate corrective action to complete the missing documentation for the current deliverable and reinforce the importance of QMS compliance for future work. Non-compliance with the organization's quality management system standards, even for documentation, means the deliverable is not truly done or of the required quality. A project manager must ensure that all deliverables meet defined quality and compliance standards, not just technical functionality. Therefore, the immediate action should be to rectify the current non-compliance by completing the missing documentation and then reinforcing the importance of adhering to QMS standards for all subsequent work. Compliance with quality standards ensures deliverables are fit for purpose and auditable. Question 22. A project requires using a specific type of steel. During procurement, the project manager finds that the most cost-effective supplier cannot provide certification that their steel meets a specific ISO standard required by the project's quality management plan. Other suppliers are significantly more expensive. What should the project manager do? A. Purchase from the cheaper supplier and perform internal testing to verify the steel's quality. B. Engage with the cheaper supplier to understand if they can obtain the necessary certification or provide equivalent proof of quality. C. Select one of the more expensive suppliers who provides the required certification, and submit a change request for the increased cost. D. Remove the ISO standard requirement from the quality management plan, as it is proving too costly. Answer. C. Select one of the more expensive suppliers who provides the required certification, and submit a change request for the increased cost. If an ISO standard is a specified requirement in the project's quality management plan, it indicates a critical compliance need that must be met. Sacrificing a non-negotiable quality standard for cost savings is unacceptable, as it compromises the project's integrity and potentially leads to rework, failures, or safety issues later. The project manager must ensure the project adheres to all defined requirements, even if it means incurring higher costs, and then formally manage this change through a change request. Compliance with specified quality standards is often a prerequisite for project success and acceptance. Question 23. An external consultant is hired for a specialized task on a project. The consultant submits a report that includes data from a previous client, violating a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, they signed with that client and potentially exposing the current project to legal risks. What is the project manager's best immediate action? A. Remove the confidential data from the report and continue using the consultant. B. Terminate the consultant's contract immediately due to the breach of confidentiality. C. Report the violation to the organization's legal department and assess the implications for the project. D. Confront the consultant directly and warn them about the NDA violation, asking for a revised report. Answer: C. Report the violation to the organization's legal department and assess the implications for the project. A violation of a non-disclosure agreement by a consultant, especially one involving a previous client's confidential data, is a serious legal and ethical breach that could expose the current project and organization to significant legal risks. The project manager's primary responsibility is to protect the organization. Therefore, the immediate and most appropriate action is to escalate the issue to the internal legal department, who are best equipped to assess the severity, advise on legal implications, and determine the necessary course of action regarding the consultant and the project data. Involving legal experts is crucial when faced with serious contractual or confidentiality breaches. Question 24. A project manager receives a request from a team member for specific software access that would allow them to bypass certain internal security protocols, arguing it would significantly speed up a critical task. The project security management plan explicitly prohibits such access. What should the project manager do? A. Grant the access conditionally, but monitor the team member's activities closely. B. Deny the request and explain the importance of adhering to the security management plan. C. Consult the IT security department to see if an exception can be made for this specific task. D. Allow the access temporarily for the critical task, then revoke it immediately afterward. Answer: B. Deny the request and explain the importance of adhering to the security management plan. Internal security protocols, especially when part of a formal security management plan, are often non-negotiable compliance requirements designed to protect sensitive information and systems. Bypassing such protocols, even for efficiency, introduces significant security risks and violates organizational policy. The project manager must uphold these critical compliance measures by denying the request and reinforcing the importance of adhering to the security plan, explaining the rationale behind such controls. Prioritizing security compliance is essential to safeguard organizational assets and maintain trust. Question 25. A project is delivering a product to a client who operates in a highly regulated industry. The project manager receives a revised set of industry standards mid-project, which now include stricter requirements for product traceability. The original project scope did not account for this level of detail. What is the most appropriate action for the project manager? A. Proceed with the original scope and inform the client that the project will not meet the new traceability standards. B. Initiate a change request to analyze the impact of the new standards on the project baselines and propose necessary adjustments. C. Document the new standards and the lessons learned and plan to address them in future projects. D. Implement a basic traceability system as a compromise to meet the spirit of the new standards without significant impact. Answer: B. Initiate a change request to analyze the impact of the new standards on the project baselines and propose necessary adjustments. When new, stricter industry standards emerge mid-project, especially in a highly regulated environment, these become critical compliance requirements that the project must address. The most appropriate action is to formally manage this change by initiating a change request. This allows for a thorough impact analysis on the project's scope, schedule, budget, and quality, ensuring all stakeholders understand the implications and can make informed decisions about adapting the project to meet the new mandatory standards. Regulatory compliance changes are treated as significant scope changes that require formal processes.